Hi, my name is Don Voss, and you're now tuned in to Danaya Azure Radio.
Hello, Don. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Danaya. You? It's been a while.
I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute. So I met the phenomenal Don Voss on Clubhouse in the 413. If you have been listening to me at any point, you have heard me say that a bunch of times. So how did you originally get connected to Clubhouse?
Really interesting. I was working with some folks up in the Bay Area, Salzburg, Germany, and Singapore on some automation concepts. And the guy in Singapore asked me if I wanted to join Clubhouse. I should check it out to see if there were any partners or people we could do business with. And I did. And that led me to Stephen Michalski and obviously to meet you. And I'm blown away that time during COVID and the amount of connections that we made globally on Clubhouse are priceless. Thank you for joining. It was great. I'm glad I joined.
Absolutely. So you're the one that got Stephen Michalski on Clubhouse.
I'm guilty.
So what was that first room like with him?
Pretty interesting. Definitely thought-provoking. Bring together many different viewpoints in a lively discussion. And it's evolved quite a bit from that time. I know you were involved and have been involved for what, 2-3 years?
Yeah. Yes. 2.5 years now. Yeah. About 2.5 years now. Mm-hmm. Since 2021. Wow. So yeah.
Yeah. How fast that went.
Right. Absolutely. And it's funny because when it comes to the 413 and just all the people that I've been able to meet there, it's so amazing. I remember when Saba first told me about the room, she hit me up. She was like, "Hey, guess what? I got a speaking engagement." I was like, "That's awesome." She's like, "It's tomorrow morning." I was like, "Great. What time?" She said 6:15 in the morning. I said, "I'm sorry, a.m.?"
Yeah, P.S. Let's translate that. That's 3 a.m. for me.
Right. It was so at the time it was at 6:13 because that was originally 4:13 on the West Coast. So it was very interesting. Now
Right.
we all the way to 5:38. I still trying to figure out how that happened. Right now it's at 3:38 a.m. West Coast time, 5:38.
At what point Steve Michalski got on to Vince Lombardi and Lombardi time, Danaya? So for him, 4:13 translated to 3:40 a.m. because if you're not early or late. So that's why I'd say it was even before that time. You know that. You wouldn't let you on the stage if you weren't there at 3:40 a.m.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. And so what I say whenever I'm talking about the 413, what made me stay and stood out to me more than any room, and to this day, I have never seen anyone do this. I came in the room, and at the time, I'm not sure what exactly was happening, but I remember specifically that he said he wanted to make sure that there were no others in the room. So basically what happened was, and he wanted everyone to be, somebody was following them. So, because everybody knows how if there's Clubhouse, there's the people that are on stage, people that are following the people that are being followed by the people that are on stage, and then everyone else.
Right.
He was the very first room that I went to where he said, "You know what? Let's do something different. Let's make sure that there are no more others in the room. Everyone's going to be followed by someone." So then it got to be a point where it was actual race to see who could follow the new person that came in when we didn't even know who they were. It wasn't about status. It wasn't about, what club they're in or whatever. It was just about connecting with people. And that right there is what hooked me for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome to know at any given time you're all of a sudden connecting with someone in Australia, London,
yes,
Germany, Ghana. all the islands in the
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean. It was a lot. It was a lot of it sure made the pandemic go by quickly, or each day go quick.
Yes, for sure. And I think another really beautiful piece is the fact that we were saying we know how to say thank you in so many different languages. And also the biggest thing too is also the fact of the 413 gives people voices that other stages won't allow speak.
Yeah.
Because, whether they have an accent or whatever, or if they have a speech impediment, we just come in and show them love regardless. And I think that really makes that community stand out above the rest.
Yeah, I'll never forget when we were talking, it evolved and we started talking about leadership. I think it started out as 40 days of leadership.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there were people all over the world talking about what they thought the key attributes or the best things that you could do to be a good leader.
Yes.
That was tremendous. I never learned so much about leadership from so many different perspectives worldwide than that.
Most definitely, and it's funny when we tell people about it, they're like, wait, what are you doing? Why are you up so early? I'm like, oh, you have to see it. You have to see it to understand it. And then when they come in the room, they're like, oh, okay, I got it. I see what it is. I see the energy. I see the vibe. That kind of room can help me start my whole day. So for sure. So you were with Coca-Cola for how many years?
A little bit over 30.
Wow. How did you originally even get started with that company?
Well, it's a funny story. I had been working with a company in Chicago, McGraw Edison, nothing to do with publishing. They had a lot of heavy duty industries. And I started out my career in the financial area as an auditor. So I was traveling around the country and got to see most every part of the country. That company was acquired and broken up in pieces and sold off. And after I left there, I had a phone call. This is probably my first key reinforcement about the importance of networking. A headhunter had called and said, hey, I'm talking to someone in Dallas who recommended you for this job at Coca-Cola. And so I interviewed for it. And I remember the recruiter telling me, hey, Don, you might want to stay here longer than 1 or 2 years, maybe 5. And skipping forward, 33 years later, Danaya, it went by really quick, and it was tremendous experience, and got a lot of great opportunities to learn different things.
So what can you say was your most memorable experience about working with Coca-Cola?
Most memorable, a lot of times it's recency. Towards the very end, I was fortunate enough to be the sales lead pursuing Panda Restaurant Group, who'd been a longtime Pepsi-Cola customer for probably 25 years. And after a little bit over 2 years work, we were successful in having them switch to pour Coca-Cola. That was a great win for the company. And then the Western region of the United States, probably the biggest sale they've had. So I was very honored to be a part of that team.
Definitely. And, I think when it comes to companies like Coca-Cola that are just such a staple and especially when it comes to marketing, because sheesh, everybody remembers the polar bear, that campaign or or having Tyrese sing on the bus.
The Hilltop commercial, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember having Tyrese sing on the bus. That was a big one for me. I was like, whoa, who is this guy? I think Coke did a really, really great thing when it came to working with emerging artists that we haven't seen before.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a phenomenal opportunity. I started out working for Coca-Cola in the financial area, and I had an interest in operations management and was fortunate enough to be a production manager to open a manufacturing facility. It was the first one they'd built in decades in the Americas. And after a few years of doing that, I had an opportunity to join sales, eventually partnership marketing, and I ended my career in sales. So I got very wide and deep experiences in all those functional areas, and I probably never would have got that any other place. So I'm grateful for those opportunities. I learned a lot.
Definitely. So what are one of the tips that you can share when it comes to someone who's just starting out in sales? Like, what are one of those maybe nuggets to success that you can share?
I think the most important thing around sales, there's quite a few, is to listen and put yourself in the shoes of who you're trying to sell with and help them succeed, help them sell, or help them solve a problem. So for me, if I was working with a buyer for another company, I'd have a two-dimensional look. I'd be looking at that company and what they were trying to accomplish, and then the individual buyer, what would help them in their career, help them with their company. And I worked really hard to do that. And it paid off. I mean, in general, a lot of times I've spoken at career chats for colleges, and I usually tell people something so basic they laugh. I said, in general, no matter what job you're doing, do something you like and have an interest in, because you're never going to be good in it if you don't like what you're doing. And then number two, show up every day and try. And I think if you do that and you're constantly doing that, you're going to be very successful.
I love that. Show up every day and try. I think people don't forget about how important consistency can be and what it shows to other people when you're consistent. Because when you're consistent, people are like, oh, you're doing this every day. You actually have a passion for this. You actually really care about this.
Yeah, you can really see it like this time of year in sports when they talk about a star who got hurt. And I always used to joke around and say the best ability is availability. If you're not available, if you're not at work, how much value or what can you do if you're not there? So show up and try.
Absolutely. You can get so many things just by showing up. I've gotten many opportunities just by showing up when others didn't. Because I think a lot of people forget, they'll think about they have all the excuses in the world. But if you really want something, if you really want to meet that person, go to that event. If it's in another state and you have the funds to fly, do it. Because somebody else didn't, and that's going to give you a totally different opportunity that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, and I think be curious and try. If it feels a little bit awkward, it's probably because you're growing or learning something different, which is always a good thing. I was at a dinner last night, and there was a student that had asked me something, and they were just starting their career, and I just offered up. It popped in my head. Look, if it's a tough conversation, try and have it. Do your best. Reflect on it, get better, and have it again, because not many people want to do those tough conversations or anything that's tough. And if you show up and try and do what's a bit challenging or makes you feel a little bit awkward, I think you'll really, reflecting on that, you'll be smiling.
Most definitely. You can stand out above the rest because you showed up and showed out. When others did nothing.
I'm going to use that. Show up and show out. I like that.
You showed up, show up, and show out. It's so funny because I know the very first opportunity, like mainstream, I want to say, opportunity they got when it came to being on the red carpet, or having my jewelry on the red carpet, was because I went to my friend Sarah's event. She had a series called Divas, where she was supporting amazing women doing phenomenal things. I got there early. I was polite to everyone. And one of the girls there was like, hey, I'm doing an event with Snoop Dogg next week. can I use some of your jewelry? And I said, absolutely. What color do you need? And so, but that opportunity then led to a phone call during that week of, hey, Snoop Dogg is over at this record store. You want to come meet him real quick? And so I got to meet Snoop. All because I went to go support a friend that I've been knowing since I was a child.
And you tried. And you tried.
Yep.
Right.
And I showed up and I completely showed out because I came early. I came to support. I was polite. I was helping people do things. Uh-oh. Hold on. You're back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, I came early. I showed up. But not only did I show up, but I was helping, because everybody isn't familiar with the location that you're at, right? So I helped her to find where things were. Had no idea who she was, but that is why I got the opportunity.
Yeah, for all the listeners, your jewelry line is tremendous. So if anyone hasn't had the opportunity, check it out.
Thank you so much. See, this is why I love Don. So Don is such an amazing person, such a beautiful spirit, and the fact that I was able to meet him in person, which was really, really cool. That was because me and Saban had an event in LA, and we're like, hey, Don, let's come, let's connect. Let's actually see each other in real life. And it was a beautiful experience.
I'll never forget. That was a tremendous day. I had a friend I brought with me who'd never been to the campus. And when he stood there and looked out at the ocean,
right?
And I understand why my niece wants to go to Pepperdine.
It is such a beautiful view. Oh my gosh. Such an incredible view. And it was a beautiful experience, That's another thing, we came out there to work, and we came out there and we showed what we did, and it was a great experience for everyone. And we were able to come home and feel accomplished from that. But had we just been like, oh, that's far, we don't know what the budget's like, yada, 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 made all the excuses, we never would have made that experience. Life is about making experience and taking chances and building relationships, because that's what gets you far in this business, is building relationships. I'm telling you, there's no question, you're not going to get anywhere in this business, whether it's entertainment, politics, whatever. It's all about building relationships, not just utilizing people for 15 minutes and then moving on. You ask anybody who's been in the business for years, they've done it because they've built relationships, maintained those relationships, and treated people right.
Yeah, with respect. People remember that. You'd mentioned earlier about being polite. People remember that. They really do. And there's a saying, if you want to go fast, do it alone. If you want to go far, do it with a team. And it's all about your network, because as complex as things are, you can't know everything. But if you know someone who knows, you're going to go far, especially if you can work with people and collaborate. That's what it's about.
Oh, collaboration is the key to success. No question about that. I mean, I know I talked to Saber earlier, and she was telling me that I know that she was telling you about what we're doing with Hope for Maui, and that's not collaboration.
Yeah.
Whew, child.
Yeah.
We are blessed to work with an amazing team down in Maui, with all the situation that's going on with the fires and everything. And shout out to Chris Collins, because man, it's going to be a very, very powerful situation. Yeah. And I'm blessed to be a part of it, because we are definitely going to be a part of history. And but again, that wouldn't have happened had I not come to the 413. That wouldn't have happened had we not connected offline. I say all the time how important it is to take your social media relationships offline, because that's where the real connections are made.
Yeah, Collins was, I think I don't know if I was still joining the room at that ungodly time in the morning, but he was in Moshelski's 413 room on Clubhouse, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, Don came more on when we had the afternoon ones.
Yeah.
Because
that was the 4 p.m. The 4 p.m.
Yeah, the 4 p.m. Because he was not feeling the 4:13 a.m. It was not happening. It was not. He did a couple times. He's like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing this every day."
No, I did with you, and I think you joined with Seba and I the leadership discussion room. Yes. Would go for an hour and a half.
Oh, those 40, yes.
40 days in a row we did that. 40 days in a row.
Oh, it was 40 days in a row? Nice.
I have notes on it. I was looking through them the other day because there's some pretty rich leadership insight in there, nuggets in there. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I always talk about how when the 413 switched and it was after that, I was after that space. I make it very clear all the time. I'm like, yep, if it wasn't for Tania, Zayla, and Nicole, and you, like that really changed the direction of where the 413 went. When it came to how our conversations went, how the energy was, it really did change. Where it came to the thankfulness, encouragement, and forward thinking, that came out of that space, right there.
There was a lot
of to y'all because that really did help to change the entire direction of the space.
And I think the agility and collaboration, being able to do shifts and changes, so that all the folks joining the room had a chance to express themselves and contribute. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely. And that's the cool thing about it is that that's what I love about Clubhouse is that everyone can participate. Right. Everyone can have a chance to have their voice. Just have common sense when you come on that stage, otherwise you're gone. But you have a chance to participate. I think the cool thing about it is when it comes to Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces and all these different spots, is more people actually have a chance to let their voice be heard and have an opportunity to make a difference. A lot of people that are shy were given a voice on these apps. I don't think most people understand that. It's not just those who are in radio and this and the third. People that are really shy have been able to be like, okay, I can talk here and I'm comfortable and they're not going to laugh at me. And that is really, really powerful when people say, I'm usually not comfortable talking, but you've given me the courage to be able to speak. So to be able to give people their voice is just such a powerful, powerful thing.
If I remember also, anyone who ever started off saying, I don't usually do this, I'm shy, they probably had the most insightful comments of anyone to share. And then, quite frankly, the one learning I had, you don't really realize the expression, whatever you shared, how that could help somebody or impact them down the road. It may be a week, a month, a day later, you run into them and they say, you said this. And quite frankly, you might not remember saying it, but they did, and it really helped them. So sharing is pretty powerful and not to be underestimated, as you said.
Absolutely. I know specifically, but one thing that I will never forget was the day that Kelly Wood got her patent. Because I'm not sure if you were in the room that day, but I remember we had talked about it and she was talking about she was going to go for it. And the day she got it, we did the interview the very next day because that was such a huge accomplishment. All the struggles that she went through to get that. Yeah. That was such a big deal. And the fact that she wanted to come on and share that, and we could share in that beautiful moment with her, there's nothing like that feeling. Really, there's nothing like it. And we have a bunch of feelings like that in that space, for sure.
It feels pretty good. Yeah, that's for sure. Even when she shared that, and I heard about it, I wasn't in the room, but I felt good. I mean, if you have IP and you have a patent, that's an achievement.
Yeah. Because that is not an easy process by any means, and if y'all have been listening to me for a minute, you have heard that story. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt story. And that space of 413 really has allowed me to meet some amazing people, and we've been able to touch lives. And so to be able to hear later on that what I've said or what Saba said has touched someone in a way that we never even thought of, especially like when you're on those days, because you have good days and bad days, right? So when you're on those days and you're not having such a good day, but to think about that, it's like it makes it all worth it, for sure. So when everything is said and done, what do you want your legacy to be?
Mine's pretty simple. That I brought my best thinking and action to create some value and help make something better. That it's about construction, not destruction. Destruction's sad, and construction always follows destruction. So no matter what happens, be focused on construction and moving it forward in a positive way. Help somebody.
I absolutely love that. Construction, not destruction. If the whole world could follow that policy, it would be in such a better place.
Well, you know, stuff that's worthwhile is not easy, and we need everybody to feel uneasy and go for it.
Yes, feel uneasy and go for it, and realize that we are so much more alike than we are different. And I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to the 413 is that we don't discuss politics or religion. We just talk. And we just talk about how to build each other up and bring people together and show love and thankfulness, encouragement, and forward thinking. And it allows us to connect on a totally different level. Because one thing I can't say about Clubhouse is that if you're in the wrong room, it's very divisive. So, but that space there, we come in, we show love, we uplift each other. People are comfortable sharing their achievements there. And we have fun and we learn and we grow and we thrive. And we're just going to continue to thrive.
Yeah, I find you can get some inspiration from starting your day that way. And in that the 40 days on leadership was just that. It was inspiring.
Definitely. Like I said, again, you are the person that got the whole thing started because you brought Steven in, and now he's changed lives for people around the world. So I thank you for connecting him to the app, which is now helps to change some lives. So it's really cool.
Well, truth be told, I asked him to get in the batter's box. He stood there when the pitches came and hit the ball and knew whether to swing or whether to take. He did the work, so I can't take credit for that. And you have done the work participating in bringing yourself and all your great input. I really appreciate you and everything you've done, and everybody on the room for showing up and trying.
Most definitely, most definitely. It is always a pleasure to talk to you. Go ahead if you have any shout outs to give. Go ahead and give those before we get out of here.
Shout out to the originals in that room: Tania, Saba, Nicole, myself. If I forgot anybody, my apologies. But thank you for the opportunity. It was a great time. And if you need anything or I can help you in any way, let me know.
Absolutely. Don Voss is my guest here on Danaya Azure Radio. Make sure you guys follow what he's doing. He's such an amazing person, such a beautiful spirit. And it truly was my pleasure to have you on.
Yep. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm there most. Donald W. Voss on LinkedIn. My company, Sigma Analytics. We help financial professionals and owners save money and create new revenue streams, free up time for their people to do more important work, and believe it or not, reduce the risk of fraud. There's a lot of that going on. So I guess I'll end by don't click on anything on an email unless you know who it's from.
Don't click on anything on the email. Don't click. I don't care if it says your friend. Don't click on that link in your Facebook or your Instagram. Please, please, please. It's typically a scam. Thank you. Bye.